Chapter 13. On repeat. Keeping something that big quiet turned out to be a lot harder than just not talking about it. Josie found out the next morning, when she walked into the studio and her whole body lit up at the sight of Jake, and had to act like it hadn't. He was at the console, eyes on the screen, headphones half on. Same hoodie as the night before, different t-shirt, same loose coil of focus wrapped around him. "Morning," he said, glancing up. It was a normal greeting, casual, the same way he'd said it 100 times. Her brain, unhelpfully, supplied, "That mouth was on mine less than 12 hours ago." "Hey," she managed. It came out breathier than she'd liked. "You look kissable, tired." "Release week," you said, rolling his shoulders. "No one sleeps. How's your head?" "Loud," she said. "How's your ethics committee?" "Also loud," he said dryly. "They're filing reports as we speak." Mia bustled in then, saving Josie from having to figure out what to do with that. "Okay, lovebirds," Mia said cheerfully, dropping a bag of pastries on the desk. "Streaming is up, mentions are up, and my blood sugar is down. Fix it." Josie choked on air. "What?" Mia blinked. "Relax. It's a figure of speech. I call everyone lovebirds. Except Simon. He doesn't deserve it." Jake coughed, a little too sharply. "Update?" Mia grinned like she knew exactly how flustered they both were, and chose, mercifully, not to comment. "Song's doing well," she said, pulling out her phone. "We'll go over numbers later, but you're holding steady on the playlists and not dropping off a cliff. People are stitching your lyrics with their own breakup videos." One girl posted herself dancing in her kitchen to the bridge in pajama pants. "It's adorable." "Good," Jake said. "Let them do the work." "And we have 2 more outlets asking for interviews," Mia added. "One podcast, one blog. I told them we'd circle back after we get vocals on First Light sorted." "Right," he said. "Speaking of which." He turned to Josie, producer mode sliding fully into place. "You warmed up yet?" "I did scales with a YouTube video in my bathroom," she said. "The neighbor's dog is now a fan." "Dogs have taste," he said. "Let's get in the booth." It was almost a relief, the way the session swallowed them. In the booth, with headphones on and the mic in front of her, the noise in her head narrowed to one channel. His voice in her ears, the track under her feet, the lyrics in her chest. The kiss, the rooftop, the DM from the hospital girl, they all folded into the song without demanding attention. "Again from the top," he said. "Lean into the word almost. You're underselling it." "Every time you say almost, I think of last night," she muttered before she could stop herself. There was a pause over the talkback. "Josie." "Sorry," she said, face flaming. "I'm focusing." "Good," he said, "because I'm not re-recording this bridge just because you fell in love." The word detonated in her ear like a dropped mic. She missed the cue completely. The track rolled on without her. She stared at the lyric sheet, heart banging against her ribs. He swore softly, a sound that only the studio mics in her heard. That wasn't. "I meant with the song," he said, fumbling once. "You fall in love with the song. The moment, whatever. Not, forget it, from the top." Heat flooded every inch of her skin. She bit her lip, wanting simultaneously to laugh and to climb into the mic and never come out. "Stop talking," she said weakly. "Play the track." He did. This time she hit the entrance, the word almost carrying a weight it hadn't before. Because now she knew what he tasted like, what his voice sounded like when it frayed at the edges, what it felt like to have his hand warm and steady at her neck, anchoring her in a world that kept shifting under her feet. "Better," he said when she finished. His tone was neutral. His eyes through the glass were not. They didn't talk about the kiss again that day. They didn't need to. It was in everything. In the way he stood a little farther away when they listened back to takes, as if giving himself distance so he wouldn't reach for her without thinking. In the way she caught herself watching his hands on the console, remembering the way they'd felt on her waist for those brief, dizzy moments when he'd pulled her in. In the way Mia's eyebrows did a tiny dance when she walked into a room, and the temperature shifted. "So," Mia said later that week, cornering Josie in the break room between takes, "how's the thing you're totally not telling anyone about?" Josie nearly dropped her mug. "What thing?" Mia looked over her glasses. Sweetie, I've been watching Jake for 5 years. The man's a machine. He has 2 settings, produce and glare. The only time he ever glitched was that month with Elle, and that was a whole different kind of crash. This, she stirred her tea. This is new. Josie swallowed. Nothing's happening. Uh-huh, Mia said. And I'm a tap-dancing llama. It's complicated, Josie blurted. Of course it is, Mia said. There are contracts involved. And feelings. And the fact that he has the emotional literacy of a particularly intense toaster. Despite herself, Josie laughed. That's not fair to toasters. Look, Mia said, her voice softening. You don't owe me details. But I'm going to say this once and then never again unless you ask. He cares. Too much, sometimes. He also overcorrects when he thinks he's messed up. If he pushes you away or overprotects you or acts like a jerk, it's not because you're too much. It's because he's terrified of being what he's seen go wrong. The words hit square in the center of Josie's chest. I know, she said quietly. He told me about Elle. Mia's eyes flicked with something like pain. Of course he did. Good. Then you know he's trying. I'm trying to, Josie said. To keep it separate. To not make him responsible for my feelings. To not let this trash the thing we're building. Here's the secret, Mia said, leaning in. It's never fully separate. The best records I've seen come out of this building, they're messy. People fall in love, fall apart, come back together, all while the tape's rolling. The trick is not pretending it's clean. The trick is deciding what you can live with, when the story inevitably leaks. Happy thoughts, Josie said weakly. Mia grinned. Hey, I said I was only doing this once. Now I'll go back to making sure your water has honey in it and that Jake occasionally eats something that isn't coffee. She squeezed Josie's arm and breezed out, leaving the faint scent of citrus and chaos. As the days blurred into a pattern, promotion, recording, rehearsals, sleep when they remembered, they fell into a strange, fragile balance. In public, they were what everyone expected, producer and artist, occasionally bickering, often teasing, always orbiting each other with a pull that could be explained away as creative. In private, in late-night live rooms and half-lit hallways, they were something else. Not quite a couple, not just co-workers. A secret. One night, after a marathon session on a new song that refused to behave, they wound up in the same elevator, alone, the hum of the machinery loud in the cramped space. They didn't say anything. The tension was a living thing, sitting between them, breathing. On the 4th floor, the elevator juddered slightly. She swayed. His hand shot out, catching her at the waist, steadying her. The touch burned through her hoodie like it was nothing. Careful, he murmured. She looked up. He was close. Too close. Not close enough. You can't keep doing that, she said. Doing what? His thumb moved just slightly against her side. Catching me, she said. If you're so determined to keep this slow, you have to stop being... She gestured helplessly. You. His mouth curved, almost a smirk. You want me to stop being myself? I want you to stop being so good at being yourself, she said, flustered. It's confusing. You're not exactly helping, you said. Every time you hit a line just right, I remember every reason I shouldn't be doing this and all the reasons I am anyway, and none of those things cancel each other out. The elevator dinged. 5th floor. He dropped his hand, stepping back, jaw tight. Good night, Josie. She watched him walk down the hallway, shoulders squared like he was going into battle. Night, she said to his back. It felt like a promise and a question all at once. The pressure ticked up with each passing week. More streams. More messages. A tiny feature in a mid-tier music blog calling her one to watch. A photo someone snapped at the showcase that ended up in a fashion account, praising her effortless wounded glam. I was sweating through my shirt, she said, showing the caption to Jake. That's not glam. That's panic. Panic photographs well, he said. Apparently. With the attention came the first real brush with scrutiny. A podcaster asked, So, what's it like working so closely with someone infamous for being intense? With a little too much emphasis. She laughed it off on air. It's like working with a very demanding metronome, she'd said. Keeps you on time, occasionally makes you cry. Jake had rolled his eyes when he heard it, but the corner of his mouth had twitched. Online, threads began to appear. Speculation. She's definitely sleeping with him. Look at the way he watches her in this clip. Power and Balance 101. Y'all romanticize this, but it's gross. The words hit harder than she expected. It wasn't that they were completely wrong about the power imbalance, about the danger. Those were things she and Jake had talked about at length, sometimes in the same breath as a kiss. It was seeing strangers reduce her to a cautionary tale, him to a predator. Their careful, painful, patient choices to something cheap. She stared at the thread too long enough that the words blurred, long enough that the old familiar shame, that she was naive, foolish, headed for disaster, slipped its fingers around her throat. She was still staring when Jake walked into the lounge, mid-scroll, phone in hand. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Research," she said, voice too bright. He came closer, glanced at the screen, and swore under his breath. "Give me that," he said. She pulled the phone away. "It's public. I might as well know what they're saying." "You already know," he said. "You don't need the play-by-play." "They're not wrong," she said quietly. "About the power thing." He hesitated. "They're not wrong about the potential," he said carefully. "The difference is, we're paying attention to it. They're talking about a fantasy version where you're a helpless ingenue and I'm an unchecked egomaniac. You're half that," she muttered. "Exactly," he said. "We're not living that story. They don't know what contracts we've signed, what lines we've set, what conversations we've had about what you can walk away from." She looked up. "Can I walk away?" he asked. "From this," she said. "From you, from the album, from all of it." He went very still. "If you needed to," he said slowly, "yes. We'd find a way that didn't destroy you in the process. Financially, reputationally, whatever. I don't ever want you to stay in something that hurts you because you think you have no exit." Her throat burned. "I don't want to walk," she said. "I just needed to hear that I could." He nodded once. "You can." She exhaled, shaky. "They're still going to talk," she said. "About us. Even if we never say a word." "They talked when there was nothing to talk about," he said. "They'll talk when there's too much. Our job is to make sure they're reacting to the work more than the gossip." "And if the gossip wins?" she asked. "Then we decide what to do with that," he said. "Together. Not because a comment thread told us to." His together steadied something in her. "Do you regret it?" she asked suddenly. "The kiss. Us. This. Whatever it is." He looked at her like she'd grown a second head. "No. Even with all of this?" She gestured at her phone. "Especially with all of this," he said. "At least now, if they're going to speculate, they're not completely making things up." She stared at him. Then, despite herself, laughed. "You're unbelievable," she said. "And you're spiraling," he replied. "Come on, Booth. We're not letting anonymous users have the final say on your day." "You said that like users is a slur," she murmured, following him. "In my world," he said, "it is." The second single came together faster than the first. Maybe because the machine was already in motion. Maybe because they were better at reading each other now, in the studio and everywhere else. First Light was brighter than Fault Line. Not happy exactly, but less like a bruise and more like the mark left after a tight grip, proof of pressure, not just pain. "When we do the bridge live," Jake said one afternoon, "I want you off mic for the first half." She blinked. "Off mic?" "Take 3 steps back," he said. "Sing softer. Make them lean in." "They won't hear me," she said. "They will," he said. "The room will. The people paying attention will. And watching them lean in will make everyone else shut up." She pictured it. A stage. A crowd. Her stepping back, not claiming less space, but demanding more attention. "Okay," she said, slowly. "I can try that." "You can do it," he corrected. "We've been training for it." "Training sounds dramatic," she said. "You call it practice." I call it training, he said. Same thing. They ran it again. And again. On the fifth pass, something clicked. She felt the shift, not in volume, but in intention. The bridge stopped being a cry and became a confession. That's it, he said softly through the talkback. That's the one. When the second single dropped, the numbers didn't explode, but they grew. Slowly, steadily. The phrase slow burn started appearing in articles. Ironic, Mia said, scrolling. You burning fast and the career burning slow. Balance. Josie wasn't sure how balanced she felt. Sometimes, at night, lying in the dark, the duality of her life made her dizzy. On one side, playlists, comments, interviews, stage plots, outfits, meetings about budgets and creative control. A world of amplification, everything louder, bigger, shared. On the other, a handful of kisses in half-lit rooms, a secret warmth in quiet corners, the feeling of his hand wrapping around hers on rooftops and railings, their story existing in stolen minutes. It should have felt like too much. Instead, when she thought of walking away from either, her chest hurt. One night after a rehearsal where nothing had gone right, monitors cutting out, her voice cracking on the high note, a band member missing a cue 3 times, she snapped. Again, Jake said, rubbing his temples. From the chorus. You're pulling back right where you need to lean in. I'm tired, she said, harsher than she meant. My voice is fried. The room is weird. The monitors sound like garbage. Maybe it's not me. His eyes sharpened. You think I don't know it's not perfect out here? That's the point. This is where we figure out what you do when it's not ideal. Maybe what I do is crash and burn, she said. Maybe I'm not built for this part. Studio? Fine. Booth? Fine. Mic and a crowd and a million honey things going wrong? Maybe that's where I suck. Josie, he said, warning in his tone. What? She snapped. You're the one who keeps pushing. You're the one who told them I was ready for all this. Maybe you were wrong. The words echoed in the empty space, harsher than they'd sounded in her head. Silence. His jaw tightened. You're allowed to doubt yourself, he said quietly. You're not allowed to use me as a punching bag when you do. Guilt, it hit hard. That's not... I didn't... He held up a hand. Take 5. Get some water. We'll pick it up in a minute. The dismissive tone, professional, distant, stung more than a shout. She fled to the back of the venue, heart pounding. In the bathroom, she splashed water on her face, gripping the sink until her knuckles went white. She knew what she'd done. She'd been standing in the middle of her own fear and flung it at the nearest solid object. Him. She hated that she knew that. When she came back out, he was alone on stage, adjusting a mic stand, talking quietly with the sound engineer about monitor levels. His shoulders were tense. His movements were precise. Jake, she said. He turned, expression unreadable. Ready? No, she said. I need to say something first. He waited. She swallowed. You weren't wrong. About me. About any of this. I'm scared and tired, and I used you as a target because you're here, and because I know you won't walk out if I throw something ugly. His gaze softened a fraction. That doesn't make it okay. I know, she said. I'm sorry. He studied her for a long beat. Okay, he said finally. Apology accepted. Relief washed through her, shaky and warm. Just like that? Not just like that, he said. You don't get to keep doing it. But the occasional misfire when you're under pressure? He shrugged. We work with it. That's part of this too. She exhaled. Thanks. He stepped closer, keeping his voice low. You think I'm not scared? He asked. She blinked. Of what? You've done this a million times. Not with you, he said simply. Not like this. Every artist is a risk. You are more. Her pulse skittered. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you feel less alone, he said. You're not the only one betting everything on this. She nodded, throat tight. Again from the chorus, he said, louder now, nodding at the band. This time, Pretend you believe me when I say you can do it. I do, she said. Good, he replied. Show me. She did. Not perfectly, not without cracks, but with enough conviction that when she hit the high note, the room vibrated a little, and the sound guy looked up sharply, like he hadn't expected it. Afterward, when the band was packing up, she approached him as he coiled cables. Hey, she said, cheeks still flushed. Can we talk? Not about the set list. He looked up. About what? About us, she said. We've been treating this like a problem to manage, a variable to contain. I just need to know that it's also something you actually want, not just tolerate around the music. His eyes searched hers. You really have to ask? Yes, she said, because when you put on your producer hat, it feels like you'd choose the Psalms over everything else, any day. Including me, and part of me understands that. But the other part, she swallowed. The other part doesn't want to be the thing that always comes second. Something in his expression cracked. Josie, he said quietly, you're not second. It feels like it, she said, when you shut down anything that isn't practical. When you're all about schedules and strategies and we can't do this because optics and we have to wait because contracts. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just another risk you're managing. He stepped closer, the empty venue suddenly feeling charged again. I love the work, he said. You know that. I do, she said. I've sacrificed relationships for it, he went on. Friendships, sleep, sanity. You've heard the stories. But this, his gaze didn't waver. I'm not sacrificing this. Not for a rollout, not for optics, not for anything. Her heart slammed against her ribs. You say that like it's settled. It is, he said. The only question is whether we're smart about it or reckless. I'm voting for smart. That's why I'm cautious. That's why I draw lines. Not because I want less of you. Because I want as much of you as I can have without ruining the thing you built before me and will have after me. The phrase as much of you as I can had sent a flood of heat through her. But underneath it was something steadier. Respect. Care. You keep talking like you're temporary, she said quietly. I am, he said. At least in this role. I'm not always going to be your producer. I shouldn't be. At some point, you'll outgrow me, or move on, or need new ears. That's healthy. What I don't want is for that inevitable professional shift to nuke whatever we've become personally. Her throat tightened. Then what do you want? He took a breath, like he was about to step on stage. I want to stand in whatever room you're in, he said slowly, and know that if someone asks how you got there, I can say I helped, without flinching. And I want to know that when the credits roll on this specific chapter, you still want me in the next one. Not because you're stuck, because you chose it. Tears pricked. I do, she said. Want you, in the next one, the next 10. His mouth curved, small and stunned, and a little disbelieving. Careful. I might start planning for that. Maybe that's what I want, she said. Less managing, more planning. With me, not around me. He exhaled, some of the tension draining from his shoulders. Okay, he said. We plan. Together. He reached out, fingers brushing hers, not hiding this time, even though the techs were still coiling cables at the back, even though the sound guy was pretending not to watch. She laced her fingers with his. We're going to get caught, she murmured. Probably, he said. We just make sure when we do, we're standing in something we can both defend. What do we call this? She asked. If anyone asks. He thought about it. Messy, he said. And honest. And worth every headache. She laughed, feeling something ease inside her that had been clenched for weeks. Okay, she said. I can live with that. He squeezed her hand once, then let go. Back to business, shouting something to the band about tempos. But the warmth lingered, the sense that, finally, they weren't just reacting, they were choosing. On the way out, Mia fell into step beside her, eyes flicking between Josie's face and Jake's retreating back. You look less like you're about to spontaneously combust, Mia said. Good rehearsal? Loud, Josie said. In a good way. Good, Mia said. Keep it that way. Some of us like our jobs. Josie smiled, the word job feeling suddenly too small for what her life had become. Work, love, risk, all layered on top of each other like tracks in a mix. She didn't know yet how the final song would sound, but for the first time, she trusted the process. And herself. And, maybe most terrifyingly, him. On repeat. Chapter 14. Spotlight Shift. The first time Josie saw her own face in a headline, she almost dropped her phone on the sidewalk. Fault lines and first light, how Josie Blake is rewriting the sad girl story. Her photo sat above the words. One, the label had approved from the video shoot. Eyes half in shadow, mouth parted like she was about to say something important. The article was on a mid-sized music site she actually read before any of this started. It shouldn't have felt as big as it did. It did. She barely made it half a block from the studio when the link popped up in her texts. From Mia. Look who made the front page! Another text. Mia again. Don't read it while walking, please. Jake will murder me if you get hit by a bus. Josie stopped on the corner, heart thudding. She could smell coffee from the shop down the street, exhaust from traffic, the faint citrus of someone's perfume as they passed. Normal city things. None of it felt normal. Her thumb trembled over the screen. She didn't open the article. Instead, she turned around and headed back to the studio. They were waiting for her in the conference room. Mark, Lena, Simon, Mia, and Jake, who stood by the window with his arms folded, like he was trying very hard not to pace. Nice photo, Josie said weakly, sliding into the chair beside Mia. Nice doesn't begin to cover it, Simon said, tapping his tablet. This piece is going to age very well with your future Wikipedia page. You read it? She asked, looking at Jake. He nodded once. Skimmed first. Read it properly after I made sure they didn't misquote you. Her stomach twisted. Did they? No, Mark said. That's the good news. The writer stuck to what you said in the interview last week. No invented drama. No anonymous sources close to the situation. Just you. And us. And one other name we need to talk about. Josie's chest tightened. Carter. Yes, Carter, Mark confirmed. They didn't go beyond what's already public record. Restraining order. Harassment complaint. The fact that we confirmed he's barred from contacting you. But seeing it all pulled together in one place gives it more weight. She'd known they'd ask about him. The interviewer had been too thorough, too prepared not to. She'd answered carefully, remembering Mark's media prep session. Speak your experience, don't speculate about his motives, don't diagnose, don't invite defamation. Do I look stupid? She asked quietly. Naive? Like another girl who didn't know better? Lena leaned forward. You look brave, she said. And angry. Which is good. You made it very clear who did what and who stood with you when it happened. And Jake? Josie asked, throat dry. How does he look? Jake's jaw flexed. Mark answered. Like someone who learned, Mark said. The writer clearly did their homework on your policy changes after L. The quote about insisting on a third party in the room for closed-door meetings, that landed well. Josie glanced at Jake. His gaze stayed on the table, shoulders tight. What about us? She asked. She hated how small the word sounded. Silence rippled around the table. Mia pushed a printout toward her. Page 4, she said. Middle. Josie scanned until she found it. A paragraph headed, On Working with Jake Rivers. Her own words stared back at her. People are right to be wary, Blake says when asked about working with an older, high-profile producer in a business that has never been gentle with young women. There's a power imbalance. We talk about it a lot. Jake was the one who made sure legal sat me down before we ever stepped into a booth. He's not perfect. Neither am I. But I trust him more than I trust most parts of this industry. That's the difference. Below it, the writer had added. When pressed on persistent rumors about a relationship between the two, Blake laughs. He's emotionally married to the mixing board, she says. But if you're asking whether we care about each other, yeah, we do. Of course we do. You don't walk through this kind of fire with someone and come out strangers. Josie groaned. I sound like I'm auditioning for a PR department and a Hallmark movie at the same time. It's honest, Lena said. That's why it works. Simon snorted. That emotionally married to the mixing board line is going to haunt him for years. Let it, Mia said. It's accurate. Josie forced herself to look at Jake. He was watching her now, eyes unreadable. Do you regret saying it? He asked. She thought about the interview, about the way the writer's eyes had softened when she'd chosen the word trust, about the knot in her chest loosening when she'd decided, in that moment, to stop pretending it was just work. No, she said. I don't. Something in his shoulders eased. Then we stand by it, he said simply. Mark cleared his throat. There's one line we need to watch the fallout from, he said, tapping the page. She followed his finger. I don't think you can separate my story from his entirely, Blake says. He found me in a bar when I'd already decided life was small, and I was okay with that. He's the one who put a mic in front of me and said, prove it. I said yes. That part was my choice. Her stomach dropped. Do I sound like a rescue project? You sound like someone giving credit where it's due, Lena said, and reclaiming your agency in the same breath. Some people will twist it, Simon said. Pragmatic. They'll say you're romanticizing the dynamic, that he saved you, that you're too grateful to see any red flags. Let them, Mark said. They were always going to. What matters is that you made it clear you had a say, legally and personally. Josie sank back in her chair, mind buzzing. The room felt too bright. Jake's hand brushed her knee under the table, a small, quick pressure only she could feel. You did good, he said quietly. Her chest loosened a fraction. Okay, Mark said, stacking his papers. We'll keep an eye on the reaction. If anything catches fire in a way we don't like, we respond. Otherwise, we let the work carry it. Speaking of work, Simon said, clicking his pen, we have a bigger problem than think pieces. Wardrobe. Josie blinked. What? Next week's TV spot, he said. We need to talk about what you're wearing when you sing in front of a few million people. Her heart lurched. Right. The late night show. She'd known it was coming. They'd been rehearsing for days. But hearing it said out loud, in the same breath as millions, made her palms sweat. Lena smiled. Breathe, she said. It's just another stage. With cameras, Josie said faintly, and hosts. And the possibility that I will trip over a cable and become a meme? If that happens, we monetize it, Simon said. Jake shot him a look. We aim for not tripping. He turned back to Josie. You're ready. Ready-ish, she said. Good enough, he said. We'll get you the rest of the way. The TV studio was colder than every rehearsal room she'd been in combined. They'd flown in that morning, the city outside a blur of cabs and high-rises, an air that smelled more like steam than smog. Wardrobe fittings, makeup tests, a quick run-through with the house band, it all blurred into a kind of organized chaos that left Josie's head buzzing. Now she stood in the wings, mic in hand, listening to the muffled thump of the show's intro music and the host's warm-up jokes drifting from the stage. Her outfit felt like armor, black pants that moved when she did, boots with enough heel to make her feel taller without risking a broken ankle, a dark, sleeveless top that caught the light when she shifted. Hair down, curls tamed just enough to be intentional, eyes smoked just enough to look like she'd chosen it. You're doing that thing, Jake's voice came from her left. She jumped. What thing? Micro-bouncing, he said. Your ankle. It's trying to escape. She looked down. Her foot was tapping so fast the heel blurred. I'm fine, she lied. He stepped closer, just enough that his shoulder brushed hers. On purpose, or because the hallway was narrow, she didn't know. The warmth of it calmed her more than any deep breathing exercise. Remember the rooftop, he said quietly. She blinked up at him. What? First time the song went out, he said. Just us, your phone, and a terrible streaming app interface. Nothing exploded. World kept turning. This is the same, just louder. That's not how volume works, she muttered. Joe, he said. She met his eyes. You're not here because I pulled a favor, he said. You're here because that room last month went silent when you hit the bridge, and someone uploaded a grainy video and a producer saw it and said, "Get me that girl." This is a response, not a mercy. Her throat tightened. What if I mess it up? Then we do another one someday, he said. Or we don't. Either way, you still have a voice when you walk out. He glanced toward the stage. The band was taking their places. You know what the biggest lie is about moments like this? He asked. Please enlighten me, she said. That they make you, he said. They don't. They just show people what you've already been doing. You've been singing the song for months. Tonight is the same, only with colder air and worse craft services. Despite herself, she laughed. Also, he added, leaning in, voice dropping, if you trip, I'll trip too. Solidarity. The image of both of them eating it on national television was so absurd she couldn't help it. The laugh that burst out was genuine. Through the curtain crack, she saw the host looking toward the wings. That's your cue, Jake said. His hand brushed the small of her back, the touch grounding. Go set their expectations. She took a breath that felt like it came from her heels. Don't watch the performance here, she said suddenly. He blinked. What? Watch it out there, she said, nodding toward the audience. With them. If I'm going to learn to handle a room like that, I want to know you're in it, not hiding behind a monitor. His expression softened in a way that made her heart stutter. You sure? Yes, she said. I can survive 3 minutes without your face in the shadows. Doubtful, he said lightly, and more seriously. Okay, I'll be out there. The stage manager waved. Josie, you're up. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. She walked anyway. The lights hit first, hot and blinding. The band started. The audience was a vague, dark mass beyond the footlights. She found her mark. Gripped the mic, thought of the rooftop, the girl in the hospital waiting room, her mother's note. Jake in the crowd somewhere, chosen, not dragged. Please welcome Josie Blake! Applause. A few scattered whoops. The host faded to the side. The intro rolled. She sang. It was both the longest and shortest 3.5 minutes of her life. She didn't hit every note exactly the way she wanted. Her voice caught once, on a line that still hurt. She almost turned for the off-mic bridge, remembered Jake's instruction at the last second, and took the 3 steps back instead. The room leaned in. She felt it, physically, like a shift in air pressure. The crowd went quiet in that way you only hear when a lot of people are paying attention at the same time. Something in her steadied. This wasn't about being perfect. It was about letting them see her walk into the fire and not apologizing for the smoke. The last chorus soared. She nailed the high note. The audience erupted. When it was over, the host shook her hand, said something complimentary she barely heard, and they went to commercial. She walked off stage on legs that trembled. The hallway swallowed her. The noise dimmed. Jake was there, breath a little shorter than usual, eyes bright. How bad? She blurted. He stared at her for a beat. Do you want the truth, or the version with adjectives that won't fit on a bumper sticker? Truth, she said, heart hammering. You were real, he said. Again, that's all that matters. Her eyes burned. That's it? And you didn't trip, he added. So that's a bonus. She laughed, more from relief than humor. You promised to fall with me. I lied, he said. One of us has to stay upright. A stagehand rushed by with a headset, almost knocking into them. They stepped closer to avoid him, bodies brushing. Without thinking, she reached for him. It wasn't a careful, measured gesture. It was instinct, need. Her hand found his shirt, fingers curling into the fabric. His hand came up automatically, palm spanning the side of her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Hey, he murmured, breathe. She did. In, out. The world narrowed to the scent of his skin and the sound of distant applause, and the quiet, rough warmth in his eyes. Thank you, she whispered. For what? He asked. For being here, she said. For not letting them make this their story without letting me write mine. He swallowed, jaw working. There's something you should see, he said, dropping his hand, though he didn't step far. Backstage monitor. They're already clipping your performance. Her stomach flipped. Already? Welcome to the internet, he said. Come on. They ducked into a small, cluttered green room. A TV on the wall replayed the last segment on a delay. Her face filled the screen, singing the bridge. Mia's texts were already lighting up her phone. You did that! Also, your hair looked expensive. Another from Lena. The bridge, the room, you owe me tissues. And one from a number she didn't recognize, but the signature gave it away. Just L. Saw your song. Thanks for saying what you said. For him. For us. Keep going. Josie's chest squeezed. She handed the phone to Jake. He read the message, eyes going soft in the way she rarely saw. She didn't have to do that, he said. She did, Josie said quietly. For her. For you. His throat worked. He set the phone down carefully, like it might break. How do you feel? He asked, looking back at her. Like I'm in a snow globe someone just shook, she said. But the good kind. Mostly. They stood there, the TV replaying her face in the background, the world outside the door undoubtedly already reacting. You know we can't keep this quiet forever, she said suddenly. This? He asked, not pretending not to know. Us, she said. People are going to read that article. They're going to watch this performance. They're going to put two and two together and come up with a whole romance novel. We can keep saying nothing, or we say something, he finished. I'm not saying we do a photo shoot in matching sweaters, she said, lips twitching. But I also don't want to feel like I'm sneaking around my own life. Not if we're serious. He exhaled slowly. Are we? She looked at him. At the man who'd found her in the bar and dragged her into her own potential. Who'd sat in conference rooms and visited hospital ghosts with her. Who'd kissed her like a promise in a dark studio and then held her on rooftops while her song slipped out into the world. Yes, she said simply. I am. Something in his expression cracked open. Fear, relief, want, all at once. Okay, he said. It sounded like a decision, not capitulation. Then we start owning it. Carefully. On our terms. How? She asked. He thought for a moment. Not with a press release, he said. Not with a gossip leak. With something true and small. Like the songs. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another wave building outside. Like what? She pressed. He picked up the phone, hesitated, then opened the camera app. Like this. He stepped closer. Close enough that their shoulders pressed, their faces fitting into the frame. He held the phone up, thumb hovering over the shutter. No glam, he said. No posing. Just us. Post-show. Tired. Proud. Together. Her heart climbed into her throat. You sure? She asked. No, he said honestly. My ethics committee is screaming, but they're outvoted. By who? She whispered. By me, he said. And by you, if you say yes. She looked at their reflection on the screen, her cheeks still flushed from the performance, his hair mussed, both of them in black, under harsh green room lights. They didn't look like a scandal. They looked like a team. Okay, she said. Take it. He snapped the photo. She stared at it. It wasn't flattering, exactly. Her eyeliner had smudged, his eyes were a little red, the lighting was unforgiving. She loved it. What do we say? She asked. He handed her the phone. Your story, he said. Your caption. She thought of the article, of the threads, of the DMs from hospital hallways and bedroom speakers, of the rooftop, of the booth, of the ethics committee in his head. She typed, first TV stage, same voice, same fire. Wouldn't be here without the guy who told me to stop apologizing for both. We make loud things together. JB. She hovered over the tags, tagged the show, the label, and, after a breath, at River Sound, Jake. You don't have to, he said quietly. I know, she said. She posted. For a second, Nothing happened. Then the little heart started ticking up. Comments rolled in, some predictable, some already dissecting the tilt of their shoulders, the angle of his hand on the mic stand behind them. She locked the screen. There, she said. We didn't announce anything. We didn't hide anything. We just existed. He smiled, slow and proud. That's all we've been trying to do. They left the green room together, not touching, but not avoiding it either. In the hallway, a stagehand did a double take at the sight of them side by side, and then pretended very hard not to stare. Later, in the car back to the hotel, Mia's voice crackled through on speaker. Okay, Romeo and Josie, she said. Your soft launch is soft launching. Comments are 80% feral, 15% supportive, 5% she could do better. Rude, Jake said. Relax. Most of them are defending you, Mia said. And the piece is blowing up. People are quoting the trust line. Even the jaded blogs are like, honesty, what a concept. Josie slumped back against the seat, bones made of jelly, nerves humming. Get some sleep, Mia added. Tomorrow we pretend nothing's different, and then slowly admit everything is. The line clicked off. The city slid by outside, lights smearing against the windows. Are you freaking out? Josie asked, staring at their faint reflections in the glass. Yes, Jake said, quietly. Same, she said. He shifted, his hand finding hers in the dim, fingers threading through. No matter what they say tomorrow, he murmured. Gaze on the passing lights. We know what this is. They can guess. They can project. They can be right about some things and wrong about others, but they don't get to own it. She squeezed his hand. We do. Yes, he said. We do. The car drove on, carrying them deeper into a life that was no longer just hers or his, no longer just music or just love, but some messy, bright, loud mix of both. The spotlight had shifted. This time, she stepped into it with her eyes open, and with him beside her, not ahead, not behind. Together. Chapter 15. Encore. The rusty lantern looked smaller. That was Josie's first thought when the rideshare pulled up to the curb. The wooden sign still creaked in the breeze, the neon beer brand still flickered, and the front windows still wore that permanent haze of years of smoke and fryer grease. But the place that had once felt like the whole world now looked like a room. A loud, important room, but a room all the same. You okay? Jake asked from beside her. He was in a black t-shirt and worn jeans, ball cap low on his head, like he was trying for anonymous roadie and still somehow missing it by a mile. Josie swallowed. I used to think if I ever came back, it'd be because nothing worked out, that I'd be tail between my legs, asking for my spot back between karaoke nights. And now? He asked. She looked at the small line outside the door, at the hand-lettered sign taped to the glass. Tonight only, Josie Blake, hometown set sold out. Now I'm here because we scheduled it, she said, on purpose. His mouth tipped, just a little. Better narrative. Her heart was already fudding, and she hadn't even heard the room yet. The bar had agreed to host an invite-only, streamed hometown encore ahead of the album announcement. Label people had loved the authenticity of it. Josie had loved the chance to stand where it had all started and see who she was now. She visited the cemetery that afternoon, standing under a sky that felt too bright for the memories there. She told the patch of earth with her mother's name on it about this night. About the songs. About the man beside her. The ache and the comfort of it still sat under her ribs. Come on, Jake, said softly. Let's see if the floor is still sticky. It was. The rusty lantern smelled the same: beer, sweat, fried food, a hint of bleach. The stage was exactly as she remembered. A slightly raised platform at the far end, fairy lights strung haphazardly above it, a mic stand leaning slightly left. Only now, there were cables snaking toward a small camera rig near the bar, a label tech muttering into a headset, and Mia perched on a bar stool like she'd always belonged here, laptop open, phone in hand. Look at her, Mia said when she saw Josie. Returned conquering hero, the prodigal songbird. Please don't call me that in public, Josie said. Mia hopped down and pulled her into a hug anyway. Stream is already heating up, she said near Josie's ear. We soft announced this 10 minutes ago, and Stans are already writing fanfic about you in a dive bar. Again. Tell them to at least get the smell right, Josie muttered. It's very immersive. She glanced around. The regulars were here. Tina from the kitchen, wiping her eyes with the edge of her apron. Earl in his favorite booth, nursing a beer like it was a prop in a movie he'd seen too many times. A few faces she didn't know sat near the front, phones already out, excitement flickering on their features. And in the back, by the dartboard, a teenage girl in an oversized hoodie clutched her phone to her chest, eyes wide. A woman who had to be her mother sat beside her, hand resting over the girl's knuckles, thumb stroking absently. For a second, the hospital hallway pressed in around Josie. Fluorescent lights, the beep of machines, the weight of waiting. She inhaled, exhaled. You don't have to be the girl who never made it out anymore, Jake said quietly, close enough that only she could hear. You're allowed to just be the one who came back. She nodded, throat tight. Sound check in 5, the label tech called. We're live at the top of the hour. Right, she said, no pressure. Jake's hand brushed the small of her back. A quick, grounding touch. Just another room, he murmured. You stared down worse. Like you in a control room, she said. Exactly, he said, expressionless. Sound check was surreal. Hearing her own voice bounce off the walls that had once swallowed it whole felt like stepping into a dream that overlapped too neatly with reality. The stage lights was still cheap, the monitors dubious, the mic a little scratchy, but when she sang the first verse of Fault Line, the room held its breath. Even the friar went quiet for a second. Levels are good, the tech said. Stream's clean. Chat is feral, as expected. Mia, on a bar stool with her laptop, grinned. Someone just typed, I want to be as brave as her when I go back home. No pressure. Josie swallowed. Great. Love that for my cortisol. Jake hopped up onto the stage, testing the second mic. You don't have to be brave, he said. You just have to be real. You're good at that part. One of these days you're going to run out of nice things to say, she said. Unlikely, he replied. He adjusted the mic stand with his usual efficiency. We'll keep this set lean, he told her. Old bar cover to open, fault line mid, first light near the end. One new one for the diehards and the internet conspiracy theorists. You good? As I'll ever be, she said. 10 minutes, Mia called. Stream is rolling. Chat is weirdly wholesome. Do not read it right now. Save it for your emotional masochism later. Josie laughed, nerves sparking electric under her skin. In the tiny storage room they were using as a makeshift green room, she paced between stacks of napkin boxes, rolling her shoulders, humming scales under her breath. Jake leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, watching her like she was both his favorite movie and a complicated math problem. You've been quiet, she said, turning to him. I'm letting you have your pre-show ritual, he said, and trying very hard not to tell you how to do it. She stopped, facing him. When we get back to L.A., Lena wants to talk about other producers. He stilled. I know. You do? He shrugged one shoulder. She floated it by me. Feels about time. Her stomach dipped. Time for what? For you to know you can, he said. Work with other people. Make other sounds. Build out your world. We both know I'm not the only person who can pull that voice out of you. I was just the first one who tried. She frowned, the words landing like a stone in her gut. You okay with that? His gaze held hers. I don't own you, Josie. I don't own your sound. We talked about this. We did, she said. In conference rooms and late at night and in a very intense label legal meeting. But talking about it in theory and hearing other producers out loud feels different. He took a small step toward her. I'm not bowing out, he said. Not unless you ask me to. I'm staying on this album, on the next, if you want me. I'm just making sure you never feel like your career is chained to my presence. Did the label ask you to say that? She pressed. His mouth flicked, almost a smile. No, I asked them to offer it. She blinked. What? I've been talking with Mark, he said. About contracts, credits, control. You're co-producer on the rest of the album now. Officially, your name's on every track we finish from here on out. You own a bigger piece of the masters. And there's a clause that says you can bring in another producer on anything you want without penalty. Air punched out of her lungs. Jake, the power imbalance doesn't go away because we kiss in dark rooms and hold hands in cars, he said. It goes away when you have real leverage. On paper. In rooms I'm not in. Her throat burned. Why would you do that? You fought to get here, to have your name on things. Why give up pieces of that? Because I did the my name above everyone else's thing already, he said quietly. It got me a career and a lot of hollow victories. This, he gestured, encompassing the bar, the stream, her, all of it, is better. She stared at him, chest tight. Are you planning your exit? No, he said. I'm planning for a future where you're not trapped if I screw up. Where you can want me without needing me. There's a difference. Tears pricked hot behind her eyes. You're making it very hard to not say the L word all the time, you know? He huffed a quiet laugh. You already did once. In the booth. I'm counting it. Her cheeks heated. I was talking about the song. Sure you were, he said. She stepped closer, hand lifting to touch his chest, fingers resting over his heartbeat. Say it, he murmured. You say it, she countered, heart pounding. His eyes softened in a way that made her ribs hurt. I love you, Josie, he said simply. No fanfare, no metaphor, just that. Her breath left her in a shaky rush. The word landed in all the places she'd been afraid to name, and fit there like it had been waiting. I love you too, she said, in a way that makes absolutely no business sense. That's how you know it's real, he said. She laughed, a wet sound. You know what I want? She asked. Besides me, he said. Cocky, she muttered. I want to come back here someday and not have anyone be surprised I'm still around. I want to not be a flash in the pan. I want longevity. I want to be some older woman's comfort playlist the way my mom's records were for her. His hand came up, fingers framing her jaw, thumb catching a tear. You will be, he said, because you keep telling the truth, and because you're stubborn as hell. And you? She asked. What do you want? He thought about it, and she watched him do it. No hiding, no deflecting. I want to be the man you look back on and say, he never asked me to be smaller, he said. And if the day comes when I'm not the best producer for the sound you want, I want to still be in the front row, losing my mind like everyone else. Her heart twisted. You're going to make it very hard to ever fire you. He smiled, slow and crooked. Good. Job security. Someone knocked on the door. 2 minutes, Mia saying. Chat's losing its mind. Also, someone here says she messaged you from a hospital once and wants to say hi after. Josie's head snapped toward the door. The girl? Apparently, Mia said. She's got her mom with her. Don't cry yet, please. You still have eyeliner. Emotion swelled, threatening to spill over. Josie took a breath. Later, Jake said gently, you can break open later. Right now, you sing. She nodded, blinking hard. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't possessive. It was sure. Warm, lingering, his mouth moving against hers with familiarity and something like reverence. Go set this room on fire, he murmured against her lips. I'll be right there. Where? She whispered. He smiled. Everywhere. The bar's low ceiling suddenly felt cathedral high when she stepped on stage. The chatter dimmed. Phones rose. The little red light on the camera blinked to life. Hey, she said into the mic. Her voice came back to her with just enough reverb to feel like a hug. I'm Josie. I used to mop this floor. Laughter rippled through the room. Some of the regulars shouted her name. Someone near the back hollered, We love you, girl. She did not cry. Tonight's weird, she went on. Good weird. Full circle weird. So I'm going to start with something from before all this. Something my mom used to hum when she was burning the toast. The band locals Jake had hired and rehearsed with in record time slid into the old blues progression. Josie sang the first note, and the past and present folded on top of each other in the best possible way. She saw her 18-year-old self at the bar, apron tied crooked, breathless between tables. She saw her mother twirling in their tiny kitchen, socked feet sliding across linoleum. She saw hospital walls, and LA rooftops, and the DM from the girl in the other waiting room, all layered under the melody. By the time she hit the chorus, the room was quiet in that way she knew now. Air sucked in, shoulders relaxed, eyes tilted up. Listening. Jake leaned against the wall near the back, arms folded, cap cold low. If she hadn't known him, he'd have looked like just another guy taking it in. She knew better. They moved through the set. Fault line landed harder here than it had in any streaming stat. When she sang the line about breaking her own way in, she thought of the plane, of the card with his number, of the moment she'd stepped onto this stage years ago, because there was nowhere else to put the noise in her chest. First light glowed, a quiet kind of brightness, like the sky just before sunrise. She took 3 steps back on the bridge, off mic, like they'd practiced. The crowd leaned in. Someone near the front pressed a hand to their heart. Between songs, she talked more than she ever had before. Little stories, stupid jokes. A quick apology to Earl for all the time she borrowed fries off his plate. It felt less like a performance, and more like a conversation she'd been waiting years to finish. For the last song, she hesitated. "This one's new," she said. "We haven't recorded it yet. Jake's gonna yell at me later if I mess it up on camera." A laugh from the back. "Accurate," he called. She grinned toward his voice. "It's about choosing to stay in the fire even after you've walked through it once. About not letting the scary parts be the only parts. It's called Encore." She didn't look at him as she said it. She didn't have to. The band started, soft. The melody sat somewhere between the ache of fault line and the lift of first light. The lyrics had come to her in a half-sleep a few weeks ago. Lines about second chances and second verses, and the way applause fades but the echo doesn't. Not if you let it live in you instead of chasing it. She sang like she was talking to the room. To the girl in the hoodie, eyes bright, mother's hand over hers. To the people watching on screens in cities she'd never been to. To the woman at a kitchen table somewhere, bills spread out, radio on. To herself. To him. When she reached the last chorus, the words that had scared her most didn't stick this time. "If the lights go down and the world moves on, I'll still be singing when the song is gone. I don't need a crowd to know my name. I've got a voice and I've got a flame." She let the last word rasp, just enough. The room exhaled. Applause crashed over her like a wave. It wasn't stadium loud. It wasn't millions of viewers. It was this room, these people, this bar, and somehow that made it heavier. She looked toward the back. Jake stood there, clapping. Not the polite nod of approval she'd seen him give artists in showcases. Full on, hands together applause, eyes bright, pride naked on his face. She smiled, wide and unguarded. For a second, the noise around them faded. It was just their 2 lines, finally intersecting, not at a fault line, not at a fracture, but at a place where the ground held. Later, after photos and hugs and a backstage meeting with the girl from the DM, her mother tired but smiling, both of them soft-eyed and grateful, Josie found herself in the same storage room turned green room, the adrenaline finally ebbing. Jake stepped in, closing the door softly behind him. "You were—" He exhaled, shaking his head like he couldn't find a word big enough. "You. That good?" she teased weakly. "That perfect," he said. He moved closer. There was less space between them now than there had ever been in this room, in this town, in this story. "I saw her," he said. "The girl from the hospital. You held it together." "Barely," she said. "We cried. Just together. Not on camera." "Good," he said. Silence stretched. Comfortable and humming. "You meant what you said earlier," she said. "About contracts. About not leaving unless I ask." "Yes," he said. "And I meant what I said," she replied, "about wanting you in the next chapter, and the next." A slow smile tugged at his mouth. We're talking sequels now? I'm a franchise, she said. Get used to it. He laughed, the sound low and warm, tension bleeding out of his posture. You know, he said, stepping close enough that her back brushed the crates. This is where I first saw you. I know, she said. I was there. You were singing to the wall, he said. And I remember thinking, if she ever turns around and realizes people are listening, she's going to burn the whole place down. And now, she asked, his body close enough that she could feel the heat of him through her shirt. Now you know, he said, and you're still not apologizing. Better than I hoped for. His hand came up, fingers threading into her hair, tilting her head back. You sure about this? He asked softly. About us. About doing it in the open. It's not too late to pretend that caption was about some other producer, with a better skincare routine. She smiled, heart full. Jake. Eh? Shut up and kiss me. This kiss wasn't tentative, wasn't slow or careful. It was everything that had been building since that first night in L.A. All the almosts, all the restraint, all the waiting finally allowed to land. He pressed her back gently against the crate stack, his mouth slanting over hers, deeper, more urgent. She fisted her hands in his shirt, tugging him closer, feeling the solid line of his body, the steady thud of his heart against her chest. He kissed like he produced, focused, attentive, listening to every small noise she made and answering it. When she sighed, his hand slid along her side, thumb brushing the edge of her ribs. When she pressed up on her toes, he angled her chin, deepening the kiss until the room, the bar, the whole world narrowed to the two of them and the heat between their mouths. Her head spun, but it wasn't the dizzy, out-of-control kind she used to fear. It was the kind that came from knowing exactly where she was and choosing to stay anyway. He broke away eventually, breathing hard, his forehead dropping to hers. We should, he started, voice rough. Lock the door? She suggested, dazed. He huffed a laugh. Eventually. But also, not do anything you'll wish we'd waited on. She made a sound that was half protest, half amusement. You see me? I'm not exactly patient. I know, he said. I love that about you. I also love your career, your future, your ability to look back at this night and not have it tangled up with regret. She closed her eyes for a second. Okay, she said. We pace ourselves. Again. Again, he agreed. But we don't pretend this isn't real, or that it's temporary, or that it's anyone's business but ours and the people we choose to tell. She opened her eyes. Mark's gonna have a heart attack. Mark will write a memo, Jake said. He'll be fine. She laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in a long time. Come on, he said, stepping back, though his hand stayed laced with hers. There's a very pushy girl in a hoodie out there who wants a photo, and I promised her producer wouldn't steal the spotlight. Oh, is he here? Josie asked. I'd love to meet him. I hear he's impossible and emotionally married to the mixing board. He's trying to branch out, Jake said. Widen his portfolio. They walked out together, fingers still intertwined. The bar erupted again, not with the roar of a performance, but with the softer, messier sound of people talking and laughing and living. Someone clapped her on the shoulder. Earl lifted his beer in a silent toast. The girl in the hoodie waved, eyes bright. Outside, the night air wrapped around them, warm and thick. The camera rig was being packed up. The stream was over. The internet would keep spinning without them for a few hours. Ready to go home? Jake asked. Which one? She said. He smiled. All of them. She looked back at the rusty lantern, at the faint glow of its sign, at the ghost of the girl she'd been here, small, tired, singing because there was nothing else to do. Then she looked at the man beside her, at the life ahead, at the fire she'd walked into on purpose and somehow come out of with more of herself, not less. I'm not done with this place, she said. But yeah, I'm ready. They started down the sidewalk, their shadows overlapping under the streetlights. Behind them, faint through the door, someone had already cued her song up on the jukebox. Her voice spilled into the night, tinny but unmistakable. She smiled. For years, Josie Blake had felt like an extra in her own life. Background noise. Filler. The girl in the corner with the raspy voice no one really listened to. Tonight, standing in two worlds that were finally starting to fit together, hand in hand with the man who'd helped her turn the volume up, she knew better. She was the main character. And this was just the encore. Make sure you subscribe and click the notifications to be sure not to miss the next installments or any future stories. Thanks for listening, and I will see you for the rest of the story. Soon, I hope.